Welcome once again. On this channel, we talk about investments and discernment. My name is Steven Asimwe. We are talking about investments, and in particular, we'll be talking about what you need to consider before you invest. And there are three particular things we'll need to consider. The very first one is how much income are you making? The more income you're making, the more opportunities are available for you to invest. So before you even think about investing, the first thing you need to find out is how much income do you have at the end of the week or at the end of the month. And I'll give an example. Normally, people, you finished your university degree, whatever you've studied, whether it's civil engineering, medicine, accounting, law, your expectation is that as soon as you're finished, you will start working. Look for a job and get a job. And once you have the job, get a salary. Now I'm going to compare two examples. Someone that is fairly senior, who is a manager, and someone that has just joined, that's a graduate. Let's use an example of someone who is living in a European country, whose name starts with the letter of the alphabet. And this particular individual is earning a salary of 33,000 euros, random figure. So that's annually. So that means that he is earning 2,750 euros per month. Okay? Now, obviously, because he's employed and the government is a working government, or a state that functions properly, they will tax him properly. And that individual will pay roughly 8% for his pension. Let's say 2.8% for his health insurance. And then the state will also charge him another 1.4% for his long-term health, or what they call dependency insurance. And on top of that, they will charge income tax. Obviously, that income tax is meant to fund things like defense, fund things like building of roads, building of schools, paying of teachers, all sorts of things that a normal government is meant to do. So after all those deductions, let us say the deductions come to 19.2%. He then remains with a net salary, monthly salary of 2,222 euros. So if he's a good person and decides that he wants to tithe, so that money will go towards his church. And if he's not a believer, maybe he'll give it to a charity. But let's assume that he tithes, gives 10% of his net salary. So 222 euros will have already gone to that. On top of that, he will have rent, because obviously he has to stay somewhere in order to be able to go to work. Maybe he comes from another country. Maybe he comes from Kenya or Uganda or whatever country he comes from, Bolivia, but he's now in this European country. So he's not staying at his father's place. He is in another country. He has to rent somewhere. So they'll charge him 770 euros for both rent and the utilities that he uses each month. Furthermore, he'll have to spend 400 euros on groceries, then 60 euros on the internet, 400 euros in restaurants, 50 euros in transport, 100 euros in clothing. Expenses everywhere, left, right, and center. And after all that is deducted, all his expenses come to 2,000 euros and 2,002 euros. So he's left with only 220 euros at the end of the month. However, his manager is earning 79,000 euros. So let us see what it's like for his manager. His manager is earning 79,000 euros. So that means each month he is getting a gross pay of 6,583 euros. Just like his subordinate, he's charged 8% for his pension, 2.8% for his health, 1.4% for his dependency insurance. And because he is earning much higher, his income tax rate is going to be higher than his subordinate. So all the payments come down to, all the deductions come to 2,258. That is 527 for pension, 184 for health, 16 for cash contributions on health, and then 92 euros for long-term health insurance. So all the deductions come to 2,258. So he's now remaining with 4,325 euros. That is the amount of money that will go to his bank account. Now remember, his subordinate, the one that has just graduated, what comes to his bank account is 2,222 euros. So almost double what the subordinate is getting. But they have similar expenses apart from the tithe. So the manager tithe is 433 euros, but the rent is the same because maybe the manager has decided he doesn't need to move house, so he'll still stay in that 770 euro room. He'll still spend the same amount on groceries, the internet, restaurants, transport, and clothing. And after all the expenses, he'll have 2,113 euros remaining. Now, the manager has 2,113 euros on his bank account after all expenses remaining. And the other one has 220 euros. Who do you think has more opportunities to invest? Naturally, it's the one who is earning more, the one who is making more income. So from the two people, you can see that the manager has more opportunity to invest. Because if he's to invest in, let's say, shares, or invest in treasury bills or treasury bonds, or even if it's real estate, he has more power to invest. That's why income is a very critical thing before you invest. You have to see how much income do you remain with, because the more income you have, the more opportunities you can have to invest. So we've seen that disposable income is important for investing. Now let us say that this particular and that's more about the income side. That's why when you're a graduate, it's very important that immediately you start thinking about your career. Normally after 2 to 4 years, you should consider your work situation in terms of am I going to move forward in this company I'm currently working for? Are there opportunities for promotion? Generally speaking, promotions are harder to get within a company. It's a lot easier for a competitor to come and snatch you from your company, because now after 2 years, you'll have gotten a lot of skills that will be attractive to them. And generally speaking, after 2, 3, 4 years, employers are looking for new people to come into their organization. So they are ready to pay someone who previously was a graduate in one company, and now they want that person to be an associate. Okay, so that's a very normal thing in the in the work environment. So don't be surprised about it, and that's why you need to be astute and ask yourself after 2 years, should I look for a promotion here or should I look elsewhere? And like I said, it's a lot easier to find something elsewhere. So move quick. Don't wait for, if you can get an internal promotion, well, that's good. But from my experience, what I've seen about the world is that generally speaking, it's a lot easier to get something outside your existing company. Your value is much higher after you've worked 2-3 years in a particular company. And obviously, the higher you go, the more you're paid, the more bonuses you can get, the more perks you can get, and therefore you have more opportunities to invest. So think about how much income you are making. Let us say this manager that we were talking of that was working in a European country. Let us say he has a friend in a developing country, and a random country, let's say it is Uganda, and this person is earning 1 million Uganda shillings, which is a salary that is pretty normal for many people. Let's be real. A lot of people earn 1 million shillings. There's a lot of unemployment, but there is also a number of people who earn just 1 million shillings. And that is an equivalent of 243 euros. So let us look at the case of this person that's earning 1 million shillings. He has an income tax of 202,000 Uganda shillings. So that's 49 euros. He then has to pay NSSF, so Social Security, of 50,000 Uganda shillings. That's about 12 euros. Then has to pay local government tax of about 17,500 shillings, which is about 4 euros. So his net pay is 730,500 Uganda shillings, which is 177 euros. He is very diligent. He pays his tithe of 73,000 euros, 50 shillings. However, he has to pay rent of 500,000 Uganda shillings. Rent in Kampala is, it's the spectrum is quite wide. But paying rent of 500,000 is not unheard of in Kampala. And so let's say this person has to pay rent of 500,000. So that means he's only left with 157,000 for buying food. And after buying food, he pretty much doesn't have anything to save. So in terms of someone earning 1 million, he doesn't really have enough income to make an investment. So clearly, this person has to do something radical that will improve his income. And the only thing he can do is to increase the number of income streams that he has. So if he has a normal job where he's getting 1 million shillings, he needs to think of other ways of getting different income streams. Maybe selling products to people, maybe baking cakes. There's lots of things that people do. But he has to get more income streams for him to be able to have enough income to make investments. That's why it's very important that before you invest, the first thing you consider is how much income are you making. The second thing to consider is the amount of savings that you have. If you have little savings, that means you have little opportunities to invest. The thing about savings is that they need to be regular. Each month you earn a salary or make extra income from bonuses or tax rebates. You need to save. You need to make as much saving as you can. There are different schools of thought as to how much you need to save. Generally speaking, using a percentage makes more sense. Some people wonder whether it should be 10%, should be 15, 20. The one I would recommend is 20%. This is something that 20% is a very good figure to work with. One, we learned that from the Bible in particular, the story of Joseph. Joseph was the discerning governor of Pharaoh, only second to Pharaoh. Joseph used to be a prisoner, and he managed to interpret the dreams of Pharaoh. And after interpreting the dream of Pharaoh, they could see that he was such a discerning gentleman. And definitely God was with him. And so when he interpreted the dreams of the Pharaoh was told that there are going to be 7 years of plenty. And after the 7 years of plenty, there are going to be 7 years of famine. And in his discernment, Joseph said that they needed to save enough food to cover the years of famine. And that saving was 20%. So that's where that school of thought of 20% comes from. And I will read in particular Genesis. For those who don't read the Bible, I'll read Genesis 47:15, which says, "So Joseph made it a law for the land of Egypt that 1/5 of the harvest should belong to the king." So that's where the thinking of saving at least 20% comes from. Now, obviously, practically, if you're a graduate, saving 20% might be a challenge. The best you could do is maybe 5-10%. But it's a good target to have and a work in progress. So as you get higher up the corporate ladder, as you have different income streams, then that 20% becomes more of a reality. But it's definitely a good figure to work with. So savings are very important. The two things we mentioned, the first thing is how much income do you have or are you making? And the second thing to consider before investing is how much savings do you have? The third thing to consider before you invest is find out about the investments. Read about investments. Reading about investments is not for the ultra high net worth individuals. Those who, make $1 million per year, or have assets worth $5 million upwards. No, many of you are not in that range. But you should be able to read about investments. Reading about investments only improves your knowledge. It improves your knowledge, but on top of that, it helps you make better decisions about investments. It's very easy to fall into traps of Ponzi schemes, opportunities that promise high returns, simply because you don't know anything about investments. So I encourage you and I challenge you to read about investments. Don't be that person who doesn't know anything about investments. Read. There are very many good books out there which are at a very affordable price. I'm going to recommend 3 today, but I encourage you to read about investments. The first book I would encourage you to read is called Straightforward Financial Growth. This is by Apostle Moses Mukisa, and it essentially talks about personal finances. It's available both in paperback and Amazon Kindle. I think it's about $9.99, so that's about that's technically $10, and available near a bookshop near you. A very good book. The second book I would recommend is How to Own the World, a plain English guide to thinking globally and investing wisely, by Andrew Craig. Now, it's mainly written for British residents, but the things that you read in that book and learn are applicable for anyone in any country. So I would strongly recommend Andrew's book. It's called How to Own the World, a plain English guide to thinking globally and investing wisely. It's also available on paperback. Available in paperback and Amazon Kindle. And I think on Kindle it's about $5, the last time I checked. The third book is Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. Now, that book doesn't specifically talk about investments, but it really talks more into your current situation. That book will definitely change the way you think about life, the way you think about your work situation, the way you think about your investments, the way you think about your relations with people. In fact, that particular book, I would encourage you to read it before the others. And after you've read all the others, read it after you've read all the others. So those 3 particular books are books I'm recommending to read about investments. And in our other episodes, when we talk about investments, I'll be recommending different books as we go ahead and talk about investments. And in fact, today I'll be giving a copy of this book, Straightforward Financial Growth by Apostle Moses Mukisa, to a lucky winner. So all you need to do is send an email sharing your thoughts on this episode. The email will be shown within at the end of this video, and also will be in the description of the YouTube video. So just send an email, sending a comment, what you think about the channel, what you think about this episode, what you think about the topics we are talking about, investments and discernment. Yes, and you might be the lucky winner of that book. The other things to consider whilst investing is how old you are. And why is that important? The older you get, the less risky investments you should get into. Generally speaking, you should use a simple formula where you say 100 minus your age. So let us say you're the age of 25 years. It means that 25% of your investments should be in investments that have lower returns and have lower risks. In other words, the probability that you will lose your capital is lower. However, as you get closer to your retirement, as you get closer to your retirement, so 60, 65, at the age of 65, you should have made enough investments. So let us say you started investing at 25, or you started investing at 30. From 30 up to 65, you have spent 35 years. You should have been making investments that were making a lot of returns, so that by the time you get to 65, your investments are becoming less risky and going into investments that are of a slightly lower return but are safer. Okay, so there you're now talking of things like treasury bills and treasury bonds. So you should be moving a lot of your investments away from things like real estate, away from things like equities or shares. You should now be moving them into investments that have slightly lower returns but are safer. So 100 minus your age is the percentage of investments that should be in the space that is so if you are 45 or if you are 60 years, let us say you're 60 years, 40% of your investments should be in the riskier investments, and then 60% should be in the investments that give a lower return but are less risky. So let us say your typical bonds, like currently treasury bonds, tend to typically give about 15%. That's if you're in Uganda. Give about 15%, 17%. So you'll be looking to shift your investments towards those, as opposed to other investments which might give you higher returns of 40%, because those ones will tend to, the risk of losing your capital is a lot higher. And when you're retiring, you don't want to lose your investments. So what are the things you need to consider before you invest? The very first thing is how much income. This is a recap. how much income you make. The second thing is how much savings do you have stored up in your bank. The more savings you have, the more opportunities you have to make an investment. If you're trying to get a mortgage from the bank, they will ask you, how much savings have you had? If you have been lazy and you haven't made savings, obviously they're not going to give you a good amount for a good mortgage. So the more savings you have, the more opportunities you have. The more income you make, the more opportunities you have. And then the third thing is read. The more knowledge you have, the better decisions you will make about investments. And then lastly is, how old are you? The older you are, the less risky investments you should be getting into. You should not be getting into Ponzi schemes, get rich quick schemes where they are promising you 40% returns in a month. Anything that is too good to be true is not worth looking at. And this is why you need to read more about investments, because such opportunities, if a Ponzi scheme comes before you, you will quickly dispel it because you are more knowledgeable about that investment. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I encourage you to subscribe, share, and we'll talk more about investments and discernment. But for now, have a good day. God bless you, and goodbye.